Dylan was always an extraordinary actor. My God, he used to do the exercise with students, and he was just doing the work. And they would say, "You're frightening me."
You're still saying that, but...
He'd be doing activity. "I'm frightening you." But the opposite of that kind of emotion was the heartfelt emotion that he could deliver. Very moving to watch him act. Something that some of you haven't had yet, called Spoon Rivers. He did one, I still remember it. It was just so moving. You did it for Meisner.
I did, yes.
And
yes.
He said to Dylan, "Now you listen to me. That was good."
It's so funny that you should bring that up, because I was doing a scene the other day, and this often happens. It was me, another actor, young actor, in a car, and the director wanted to move on, and Sandy showed up in my head, as he often does, and said, "No, you're not done yet." And I said, "No, I'd like to do another take." And in that take, I was able to find exactly what I wanted,
Yeah,
my own barometer of what I think is good, and finish the scene.
yeah,
But I'm always reminded in this technique that we so love, is that there is an element to it that we serve this barometer inside of ourselves, which is good. And Sandy obviously is the pinnacle of that.
yeah, yeah,
And I always think of him. What would Sandy say?
yeah,
You know, would Sandy be satisfied
yeah.
with this scene? And in that moment, it was no. He would not be satisfied. That's why we have to go again. So you see,
Good
it's
for
still
you.
in me.
Good for you.
You know, Duvall talks about that
Yeah.
quite a bit too, you know. It's just like he occupies a space, and this technique occupies a space inside of us that knows what is good. And I think that's the best part about this technique.
Yeah.
You know, that we can carry it, that we have a technique. We were talking about that before we started doing the interview, that we have a technique
Yeah.
that we can rely on.
Yeah.
And my God, you know, thank God I have it. I'm doing two TV shows at the same time right now. And to be able to rely on that technique, like I showed up on this set the other day, and luckily I had worked with the director before, and she says, "You need a rehearsal?" I said, "No, I don't need a rehearsal."
Yeah.
I went right in,
Yeah.
because the work was already done before I arrived
Right.
on set.
Right.
I'm not waiting for a director, a producer, or anyone to give me my performance,
Right.
because it's already ready when I arrive.
Right.
Therefore, I didn't need a rehearsal. That is not always true.
Yeah.
But on that particular day,
Yeah.
I didn't need a rehearsal, and I was ready to rock.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I'm reading a book by Lou Antonio.
Lou Antonio.
No?
No.
Okay. Well, it's I'm really enjoying it because I lived through the time that he talks about, and he was. The subtitle is "My 50 Years in Hollywood and on Broadway," and it's very good. He writes in a likable way. So he worked his way and slowly became a director and became, I guess, a good director that people wanted to use him. So he worked a lot as a director, more so than as an actor when he was acting. But he had this actress, and she said to him, "I'm going to kick the shit out of that scene tomorrow." Some actors, exactly what Dylan was talking about, being ready and can produce. There was this old-time actress, and so they started the scene, and the tears just started rolling down. And if you watch that from an acting point of view, you say something's wrong because I don't feel anything from that. And so the actor acting with her, he said, "How do you do that?" She said, "Oh, it's easy. You see that light? I just look into it." And I keep looking into it until the tears go rolling down. That's the way some people act. Not our way.
No.
Anyway, he said, "Okay, so tomorrow we'll do that scene." So they were doing the scene, and they did one take, and she didn't have it. So he said, "Okay, let's shoot it again," and they shot it again, and she couldn't get to her, as he put it, to her talent or the emotion. And so they did 6 takes, and she never nailed it. He said, "I had to move on."
Yeah, that's hard, especially in film.
So
I remember I was doing my first film, Hamburger Hill, in the Philippines, and I had a scene where I had to be a breakdown scene. Obviously, it's a Vietnam movie, a lot of people are dying. And it was time for me to prepare. And, 2 people had died on that film, filming it. That's how difficult it was. We had 2 funerals making it. And it was, I lost 35 pounds making the movie, and it was a mess. So it was easy to prepare, but that scene was coming, and it was after lunch. And I had prepared all the way through lunch. But here's also a great technique is water. You have to drink a lot of water especially when you had another scene recently where I had 4 pages of dialogue, just me speaking. And I got up at 5 o'clock in the morning, and my close-up was at 7:30 in the evening. So I'm exhausted, but I have 4 pages of dialogue of just me talking. And it's Ryan Murphy, it's Hollywood, Ryan is directing it, it's a new show, it's a character and a half, and it's also the 40s, so you have to speak fast. So 4 pages of just me speaking. But I knew that I had to drink a lot of water, and I had prepared. I had learned all my lines. And the same thing when I was doing Hamburger Hill, drinking a lot of water so you can be hydrated when that moment comes, especially on film, which is like a laser. It's like a laser, different than stage, where you could fudge it.
Yeah.
But in film, that camera never lies. It just sits there and waits for the truth. So on that particular day in Hamburger Hill, I was ready because I had prepared for a full hour and a half. And by the time that close-up came, boom, it was there. I was ready. And the emotion that I wanted was right at my fingertips, as we had done in class.
Yeah.
With you, with Sandy, with Phil Gushy,
Yeah.
with Greg Zittel,
Yeah.
with Harold Pinter. We had done all that work. So by the time that moment comes, and the point of the story is, always have to seize that moment right? Because you will get so few of those moments in a career. But when they come, you have to pounce on them and get out of your own way. One of the biggest things about acting is getting out of your own way because of this.
Amen.
Because this negative thinking about yourself is what keeps you in a particular place and holds you back. The negative voices. So, most of my time of my career has been mastering this, mastering what my mind is telling me, right? And getting that out of the equation. So by the time that close-up comes, like it came the other day with Ryan, I was ready. And then all of a sudden I was flying. And even the crew came up to me after the take and was like, holy shit, man, what was that? Because I was in it.
Yeah.
And that hunger is still there from the moment in Hamburger Hill, my first film, to 2 weeks ago when I was filming that scene in Hollywood. That hunger is still in place for that, whatever that thing is that we do in this room, right? That acting that I still love, trying to find out what that is, what that moment is, trying to just like pin it down. I love that. I love that about the work. And the work has kept me sane, right? The only thing that matters is the work. And we've talked about that 35 years ago.
Yeah.
That the work has always kept me in place, because I never became an actor to be rich or famous. I became an actor because I love to act. And that is still true today. I don't give a shit about the other things.
Yeah.
All I care about, like that other day, when I was on the set of Hollywood, was that work. That's where I got my fuel. That's where I got my hit. That's where I knew that was everything I wanted the scene to be, and I could walk away from it.
Yeah.
And help and hold my head up high because I had done what I wanted to do in that scene.
That's great.
But it goes back to this room. It goes back to class. That's why class is so important.
Yeah.
Because the fundamentals are here.
Right.
Right? The fundamentals are right here in this room. If you don't have the fundamentals in this room, you're not going to have them out there.
Right.
You know, that's why it's so important to work properly in your technique, in class, because it's not going to get any better.
Yeah.
If anything, it's going to get worse because there's pressure.
Yeah. Yeah. That's wonderful, Dylan,
But it goes back to love.
that you feel that way.
I still love it, you know, and a lot of actors don't. You know, somewhere along the way, the love is lost.
Yeah.
People fall in love with money. They fall in love with fame. They fall in love with, you know, lunch. Like, you know, I'm creating this other character. I'm doing 2 TV shows, Danny, doing 2 TV shows at the same time, two different characters at the same time. So for me, that's heaven. I get to create this guy for these 3 days and that guy for 3 days, you know, and create 2 wildly different characters.
What an attitude.
And
what a wonderful attitude.
But here's the whole reason I'm here today is to spread the love, which is you have to love it. Doesn't matter what your job is. I don't care if you're an actor or a carpenter or a musician, a fireman. If you love it, you'll be happy.
Yeah.
But you have to come from the love.
That's right.
If you don't come from the love, then you're going to be in torture.
And you'll be successful too.
But the success is a byproduct.
I know, but
Right?
if you love it,
Yeah, of course.
You'll put everything into
Absolutely. I always think that, you know, it's a byproduct of that. If you love it, all that stuff is going to come to you
that.
anyway.
Sure.
They're going to be laying things at your feet.
Sure.
But I don't want to fall in love with that. You know what I mean? I don't want to fall in love with it. I don't want to fall in love with any of the trappings that come with being a successful actor.
Yeah.
It doesn't interest me.
Yeah.
You know, the size of my trailer doesn't interest me.
Yeah.
It's nice to have a big trailer, but I don't need it.
Yeah.
You know, Otis and I went to the set the other day, and we were hanging out, and we were in a 2-banger, and we were happy. You know what I mean? And I was just like, I was in my character all day long. I was in this guy, And it was fun. It was just fun to be this guy for the day. And I get to be him on Monday again.
Wow.
So that's the magic.
Yeah.
That's why we became actors.
Yeah.
Is for the magic of,
That's right.
especially now, building a character. I said, for this particular guy, I said to the costume designer, I went for my costume fitting, and she goes, okay, what do you want to wear? And I said, you know, I definitely want to wear the corduroys, and I want to wear that turtleneck, and I want a gold chain from the 70s. I always look when I do a character, I always find out exactly what he wears, what he eats, you know, what's his scent.
Yeah.
You know, I always go into the deepest part of him. Does he wear a rib sock or not?
Yeah.
Does he wear a tube sock?
Yeah.
You know, what kind of shoe does he wear? How does he walk? All that stuff informs a character. That's the shit. That's why I do this, to create that guy.
A lot of sensory there.
Yes, yes, absolutely. To me, that's what turns me on. You know, when I walk on that set and I know exactly who I am. You know, and then to be free to create, you know.
Be free.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Some well, you mentioned Craig Zittle. I let him teach my class one. He wanted the actor to do something that the actor wasn't free enough to do. So he grabs him in the elevator. The guy's leaving the class.
I love Greg.
He grabs him in the elevator. So he says, God damn it, get back in there and do it.
Amazing.
But
could never do that nowadays.
He didn't understand that sometimes you can't do what you want to do because you're not free enough.
You're not there yet. That's
to
right.
do it.
That's right. Yeah, it takes a long time. You know, we used to say, takes, what do we say, 20 years? It takes 20 years to become a great actor. That's what they told me in acting school. Little did I know it takes 40. So they kind of bullshit you a little bit. But it really takes 40. Really, I'll tell you the truth. We haven't seen each other in 35 years.
Yeah.
I've been working for those 35 years.
Yeah.
I have a show out now called The Politician on Netflix, right? All these are with Ryan Murphy again. And it wasn't until last year where I really started to feel absolutely free. I mean, absolutely. I remember what you're talking about, Spoon River. I remember being in that class with you and Sandy. I remember working hard. But it's taken me all that time to get free. So when I walk on that set now, there's only what I'm doing.
Yeah.
I did a scene the other night with Patti LuPone, and you know, it was another one of these fantastic scenes, but there was a freedom in me that I was able to do things in that scene that weren't written, but because we're talking about behavior, an ounce of behavior is worth a pound of words.
Yes.
My behavior was such that I could do anything I wanted. And the director was there and the camera was there, and I was completely free once again. And that's happened now on The Politician. It's happened on Hollywood and this other show that I can't talk about. There's a freedom now after 35 years that I had never had before. But that's staying tried and true to the technique, to the work.
Yeah.
And now I'm reaping the benefits of that.
Yes.
So it's what I'm saying is it's endless. That's why this thing is so good. It's endless. It just keeps giving and giving. The more that you die into it, the more you will get. That's the beauty of it.
Sure.
That's the beauty of the work.
Sure.
And that's why I love I keep going back to the work.
Sure.
Because you see so many actors trip up on themselves and sabotage, destroy themselves, their career, whatever. But if you stick to the work, you know, I think that you have something to hold on to.
Indeed.
Because when you don't have anything to hold on to, that's when it's easy to slip up. It's easy to get into the drugs. It's easy to get into alcohol. It's easy to forget why you're there. It's the emptiness of it all. Mm-hmm. But if you remember why you're in the scene, what you're doing, working off the other actor, that's the gold that will keep you hungry, keep you in love of acting.
Yeah. I remember you did a scene, and I thought what you did was very good. And I said, how did you come to that?
Yeah.
You said, by working off of him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I said, oh.
Yeah.
Oh, that.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, because it's good, you know, obviously the curse of being an actor is self, you know, being self-centered or insecure or worrying about the vanity of being an actor.
Yeah.
Which is might be the biggest trapping of being an actor. And how do you overcome that? You know?
Oh.
Very difficult. I don't get joy in watching myself anymore. I get the joy in doing it.
Yeah.
I don't even need to watch it anymore.
Yeah.
It's like I do it, I get my hit, I get my buzz from it, and I walk away. Because I don't get that same. I watch it, I'm like, yeah, it's great. Fine, whatever. But the real joy is from doing.
Yeah.
It's in the doing.
Sure.
It's like when you're doing a scene or doing a play, you're just in it.
Sure.
And you just walk away from it and you feel fulfilled by that, not by the end result.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. He did a series called Texas Ranger.
Yeah, it was a movie. Yeah.
And he was the lead in it, and it was horses and cowboys. So I just wondered how he worked it so that being the lead and being in so many scenes, how he worked it in terms of if he needed a preparation for the next scene, how you work that out for yourself.
Yeah. Well, that's a funny story because, I get a call. Every guy wants to do a Western. I mean, that's like the holy grail. But what? So I'm literally on a horse the entire movie. So I get the offer for the movie. And what no one knows is I'm allergic to horses. And I'm like, oh, shit. This is a great role. You know, the guy's dying. He's got TB. It's a Western. I'm like, oh, man, what the fuck am I going to do? So I was like, all right. Because, I start sneezing. I'll go into asthma. You can't have some cowboy sneezing the whole picture. So I went to the doctor, and they gave me some steroids to take so I wouldn't, have an allergic reaction. So I do that, and that helps a lot. I was like, oh, thank God. 'Cause I was really worried that I'd get there and I'd be like, Felix from The Odd Couple. And I was just like, okay, I got over that hump. And then, like you said, this guy is dying, he's coughing, you're a lead in the movie. And what I like to do really is, I stay in it. I played a serial killer a couple of years ago, And I stayed in that character the whole time, in the whole movie. I made everybody call me, his name was Don, for the 3 months.
Wow.
I was in character, because I didn't want to break that at all, because it's a very serious role, and I took it very seriously. You know, I got a fat suit, it was like 60 pounds, shaved my hairline back, I had an accent, a Chicago accent, and I wore glasses, and I mean, I was just in that guy.
Yeah.
Just stayed in it the whole time. You know, my hotel room, I didn't want to break out of that guy. That's a very dangerous thing to do.
Yeah.
But sometimes, and I don't do it all the time, but sometimes I do it when I have to.
Yeah.
Sometimes characters come where you get in that costume and you're that guy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like now I'm doing Hollywood now, that guy just shows up, I get out of the way.
Uh-huh.
You know, he just arrives.
Yeah.
But then sometimes you have to be very respectful of a character because it could turn on you.
Is what?
It could turn on you.
Oh, turn on
and
you,
you can see the cracks, you can see the acting.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to do that. And that, again, for Texas Rangers, I just stayed in that guy. And I think that sometimes that serves you as an actor to stay in it all the time. Like on this other TV show I'm doing, I'll stay in character all day because it's a difficult character, and I don't want to break that.
Yeah.
So whatever time I'm there, those 13 hours for that day on Monday, my call is at 4:30 a.m. So I'll get up at 2 on Sunday morning, and I'll get into that character, and I'll immediately begin with music. I'll start to play like, because this guy's, you know, from the 70s. So I'll put on some Fog Hat, and I'll put on some Kiss, and I'll just start playing music and start getting into his world, right? So I'll create a world for myself. So by the time I get on that set, you know, and I get into costume, and I arrive, and I'm doing my lines. I'm doing my lines in the car. I'm talking to myself with him. I've already watched all these episodes of who this guy is, you know, the documentaries about his life. All that work is done. So by the time I arrive on that set, whew,
Yeah.
I'm him.
Yeah.
But that's work that nobody sees.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, sure.
Nobody sees that. And by the way, most actors don't work that way. Most actors are not really, they're just learning their lines.
Yeah.
If this is a whole different part of acting. This is the art
There you
of
go.
acting,
Yeah.
not the bullshit
Yeah.
of acting. There's an art form that exists
Yes.
here that is on par with being a musician who plays in a symphony, who is a great painter. You know, it takes hours and hours and hours and hours and hours of doing this, month after month, year after year, failed experience after failed experience, movies that don't work, plays that don't work, scenes that don't work, TV shows that are canceled. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Being cold as an actor.
Yeah.
Nobody wanting you. Nobody giving a shit. But you stay tried and true. I was talking to my daughter about this today. Stay tried and true. You keep showing up. You keep showing up. Right? It's like we were talking about Otis, right, in the car. Otis, my dog, he wants to be on the console, right? But he keeps slipping off. I take a turn, he slips off. But he gets right back up. He wants to be there. And it's the same for us. We get right back up. Nothing can squash us. Nothing can kill us. Nothing can break our spirit. No matter how many times people say, no, you're wrong for the role. No, you're not right for this. No, you're not talented enough. No, you can't do this. You know what? Fuck you. Fuck you. I'm going to show you I am. And that's the type of spirit that you need as an actor to have longevity, because there's going to be 1,000 people who spit in your face. Right?
Yep.
And you just clean it off, you wipe it off, and you show up again.
Yep.
And here I am again. It's like, oh, this guy again? And eventually, one day, all that work, all that time, all those years of sweat and blood, they show up, and you have a moment. You have a moment.
Yeah.
And you create that moment. It doesn't, like, not somebody to knock on your door. You created that moment. You earned that moment.
Absolutely.
And it's all about earning it, right?
Yeah.
And then when that moment comes, and that's where failure is so important, because through failure you learn how to have grit, right?
Okay.
And grit is everything. Grit is everything you need in this business. You have to have grit.
Yeah, you sure do.
You do, because you're going to get kicked around. And if you don't have grit, you're going to take it seriously, and you're going to take it personally. And my thing is never take it personally. You know what I mean? No matter how many times you get kicked in the stomach, you don't take it personally. You get up and you do it again. And then one day, like I said, all that magic, all that work shows up, and you have a little bit of success. And there it is, right? And then the success is not that you get awards or that you get money or you get fame. The success is you get to do it again. That's the success. You get to do it again.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, that's the fun part. That's the fun. That's why we do it, you know.
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course.
And, you know, if you're an artist has to create. See,
That's right.
I'm an artist, so I just finished my first play. I've been working on that play for years. I just finished it. I sent it to my agents in New York for theater because I want to do a production of it. But if I'm not doing that, guess what? I'm taking photographs. I'm walk on the streets and I'll just grab people and take photographs because I have to create. I have to.
I used to do that.
Yeah. When I'm working as an actor, I'm creating. I have to create. I have no choice.
Yeah.
That's what an artist is. We have to create. That's why our life is different from other people's, because we have to.
Yeah. Stanislavski said something along the lines of what you just said. He said, if you're doing a play and you're really, really, really living it for, let's say, the first time, but you're in the moments, you really have it, and you're living it, you may only do it once in a lifetime, but you never forget it, and you always try to get it again.
Yeah, you do. It's really like but you have to remember why you're acting. I remember I was doing a play in New York once, and this was, I was a very young actor, and it was off Broadway, and there was like, I think 3 people in the audience. I had just done 3 hours on stage, and I'm just like, I'm trashed. 3 hours, and then at the end of it,
There are 3 people in the audience, did you say?
there's like 3 people.
Yeah.
And at the end of it, it was,
Been there, done that.
but in the great lesson is, and I asked myself that night, I really had a long talk with myself. I said, well, why are you an actor? Are you doing it for them?
Right.
Is that why you're doing it?
Right.
And I had done that for a while. I was acting for you, for approval.
Right.
Like me. That's what Olivier said.
Right.
He said, why are you an actor? He said, look at me. Look at me. Look at me. Right? But that's a very dangerous thing, again, because you're always seeking approval. You're always seeking approval.
Yeah.
I know very famous actors who can come into a room and no one will notice them, and they'll go outside and they'll come back in. Because they have the disease. They have the disease, right? That's your phone. They have the disease of look at me. So in that moment when I got that small applause, I realized that I had to do it for me.
Yeah.
I had to act for me. And once I realized that, I was like, oh, okay. It doesn't matter if it's one person or 10 million people. It's the same. Because I'm still doing it for me.
That's so hard
So hard.
to
It's so hard.
get them to do.
Yep. It's so hard. But once you do that, there's a freedom to it. Because I'm no longer reliant on you to give me fuel, to give me approval. That comes now inside and says, okay, how'd you feel tonight? I felt I could do better, I could do this scene better, and I felt I could be fuller here. I could work off the other actor better here. You know, give myself a little report card. But then now the barometer was me, which was completely different. It was like mind-blowing.
Yeah.
There is no there, you see?
Right.
Doesn't exist. That's the fantasy.
Right.
That's why it's about the now. That's why this work here is the most important work, right? So when those opportunities come, you're ready to go. And you can fulfill those moments and have another moment. But, you know, I feel like, remember Marlon Brando in Last Tango in Paris? He said, I hated my father. He was a whore fucker and bar fighter. I hated him. But the waiting, I remember waiting, like I was in Martha's Vineyard one time, no, Nantucket. And the stars were like here.
Yeah.
Like they were here. I could touch them.
Yeah.
And the ocean was there. It was so beautiful. And all I could think about was my agent calling me. You know what I mean? It's like, and that's the trapping of being an actor. You know, just the waiting. And that's why you have to create your own things, write, put up a production of a play, do a short film, take control of your own destiny, right? It's so important not to wait for others. And that's so hard as an actor because we need other people to employ us.
Yeah, right.
You know? But did Cassavetes wait? He didn't wait. He made movies in his house.
Yeah.
And they were fantastic movies, by the way. And you saw the boom. You see the boom mic in his movies. Do you care?
Yeah.
No. He was creating his own world because no one was giving him movies. So he got his friends and they created and they did movies in his house.
Yep.
We have to do that. Don't wait. You know why? Because it's not going to come. It's not going to come. It's inside you. You have to do it for yourself. You have to go out there and take it for yourself. Because there's too many actors. What's going to separate you from everybody else? You know? And I'll tell you something. The thing that does separate other actors from each other is truth. This technique relies on truth. So few people in life, never mind acting, tell the truth. So when you see truth, it's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah.
isn't it amazing when someone tells the truth? It's like, I'm blown away by it when I see it. And it's so self-evident to everyone when it happens. It's like, whoa. So if you're able to tell the truth in your acting, it's undeniable. They have to give you the role because you're the best person for it. You're the best person. Because there's so few people who can do that, create that kind of truth. You know, I woke up this morning, 6 o'clock, I got my scripts out, I had my coffee, I went right to the scripts, and I started doing it. I have, you know, the scene on Monday, I have a scene coming up in a couple of days after that, and there I was in my work. You know, I was doing it. I was daydreaming, which I love to do. My favorite part about acting is daydreaming. Like, how's this gonna go? And, you know, like, what is he doing? What did he eat? How does this scene, what do I want to do in this scene? What's exactly, you know, I started getting into that. And there I was, like, it must have been an hour and a half later. You know, Otis was still sleeping, Charlotte was still sleeping. And my work was done for today.
Uh-huh.
You know what I mean? So that, I still love doing that. I still love waking up in the morning and going right to the work, you know? Especially in the morning when your mind is rested, and that's for me, that's the best of my day, is when I first wake up. But again, I get turned on by the work. You know, I'm not avoiding it. You know, I'm not procrastinating it. I'm going right to it.
Tennessee Williams did that every morning from 5 to 7. He got up and wrote every morning.
I love Tennessee Williams. I've done more Tennessee Williams plays than any other playwright. And I remember being in New Orleans, I went to his house, and I just sat on the curb in front of his house in the French Quarter, and just like took him in. Because to me, you know, he's a great artist. Eugene O'Neill is why I became an actor. When I said his words, "Long day's journey into night," it was as if I came home, as if I arrived into myself with his words. And I was just like, this is what I want to do.
Yeah.
I want to say great artist words, because sometimes that's why writers are so important, because they can put words in your mouth that you can't say. You know, that's the beauty of the greats.
Yeah.
You know, and then you feel complete.
Yeah. It's wonderful.
Passion, right?
Right?
Passion. It's all about passion. How much passion do you have?
It's all about passion, yeah.
For this. You know, we're only here for a minute. What do you have to say as an artist? Why are you an artist? What do you have to say? You know, those are the big questions. Because as an artist, you always have something to say. And I know I do. I know that's why I create, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
I want to make people feel. I want to make people feel. That's why this is why acting began, to make people feel, because people can't feel, they're dead inside, right? For the most part, people are dead inside.
Yeah.
They're sleepwalking. And artists, you see, what we do is we wake people up. We wake them up. We're like, what? Oh, wait a minute, I feel that way too.
Yep.
You know?
Yep.
I didn't know I felt that way. That's what an artist does, you know. When you look at a painting, and it touches you, or you hear a piece of music that touches you, or you see an actor that speaks to you, you know, all those things, or you go to see a great play. I went to go see Slave Play the other night in New York, and it was just like so provocative, you know. It's just like, whoa, there's so much in that play that just like, you know, slams you. I love that. I love to be, you know, provoked.
Yeah.
And that's what art does. And so much of art now has become commerce. right? How do we separate commerce from art? Because art is still art, but people are going to want to make money off of art all the time. But it's our job to keep the purity of the art and not get it bogged down by money, and put value on something and let people decide what that value is. Only you can decide what your value is as an artist.
I was curious, I know you're saying like you always go back to the work. That's like, you know, obviously, you know, along the journey, you know, you have times when you're down, and going back to the work is what, you know, kept you going. I'm curious, like right now, obviously you're working on multiple projects, and I know you have scripts and things like that, but when you've gone through those periods where you're not working on a project, what kind of work are you doing? Are you reading plays? Are you brushing, like what kind of work are you doing in that time when you're in that time? I don't have a job right now. I'm not working right now. I'm not on a set right now. I'm just curious, like, about that.
Yeah, most of this year I didn't work, and then suddenly, you know, I had 3 jobs.
Yeah.
But in those moments, I always, you know, I like to use ball metaphors, you know. It's like the dude down the bench. It's like he still has to do layups every day.
Yeah.
He still has to come out and do his jump shot. You know what I mean? Because he can't just sit on the bench and be like, you know, fuck, man, I'm not in the game. I still have to be ready to come off the bench and score 19 points, right? And that takes discipline. And discipline is I live my life in discipline, right? To make sure I'm ready. So that means I still have to do my exercise. I still have to eat right. I still have to take care of myself. I still have to read. I still have to study. I still have to watch things. So all that stuff is important because we can't lose sight of when that opportunity comes. Because again, it's all about that opportunity, because the opportunity is coming for everybody, by the way. Everybody in this room is going to get an opportunity, right? But what do you do with that opportunity is the most important thing, because you can have an opportunity and all of a sudden it slips by. You weren't ready. And instead of taking that opportunity, you missed it. So my theory is be ready, right? Because you just never know where it's going to come from. So, for instance, when I was doing The Politician, you know, man, was I ready for that. Like, I was on it. Like, I was in it. There was a scene where
You're the father of the son.
yeah, but there's this one scene where my trainer comes over. It's a nothing little like beginning of a scene. And I was just like, why do I have this trainer here? And I was like, oh, I know, because my guy's like a bit of a psychopath. And I was like, oh, I know. I pay him so I can beat him up. You know what I mean? Yeah. So that's how I began the scene, right? So I was just beating the shit out of this guy, and we worked it out. He was a stunt guy, and we worked it out, and I was just pummeling him. But my guy, my character, that was him, you see? And therefore, by the time that scene began, I was fueled. But I was so in that project, right? So the next thing was Hollywood with Ryan. And so he had saw my work in The Politician. It was like, okay, he's perfect for this. But again, taking that opportunity and translating into something else, you never know where that's going to come from. That's why you always have to be ready. That's why you always have to be prepared. That's why you're always on time. Early, Jodie Foster, when I worked with Jodie Foster, she taught me about time. And I said this before the class began. They did studies on time. People who are on time are successful. People who are late are rarely successful. People who are early are really successful. Jodie Foster is always early. That's why she has 2 Oscars. That's why she's had the career she's had, because she is ready, always. She's the only movie I ever did in my life that we rehearsed. We rehearsed for 2 weeks home for the holidays. 2 weeks. So by the time we got on that set,
Who directed that?
Jodie Foster. So she, everything was already done. We shot the movie basically. All we had to do was film it. So being ready, to answer your question, even though it seems like you're not working, the phone's not ringing, nothing's happening. No, everything is happening. That's when the real work begins, by the way, because it's the mental work.
I think that everybody who's been through the work in the program has at some point had that exercise or that scene where there's an aha moment where you had essentially your first truth.
Yeah.
Do you have a memory of what that was for you?
My first truth?
Yeah, in anything with Sandy's class, any sort of breakthrough that was just memorable.
Memorable, yeah. Well, I was in college actually. I went to Fordham University at Lincoln Center. And I was doing a play called Equus. And
Horses.
that's right. And I was doing a scene, and really, it's so funny, I had this only twice in my life. A voice came to me while I was doing the play, if audience is here. And I was 19. Never forget it. And the voice said, "You could really do this.
What was that?
You could really do this." And I heard it. And I believed it. That voice said, "You could really do this." And I was like, okay. And I honored that voice when it came. And, from that moment on, I've never looked back. I believed it. There's a certain amount of delusion that we have to have as an actor. And it doesn't matter. You just believe it. This is make-believe. The whole thing is make-believe. Just like it's like the Muhammad Ali theory. I knew Muhammad a little bit. We went to Ireland together, and we were on a plane together to the Special Olympics. And it was like, 4:30 in the morning, and Muhammad was up, and I was up, and he couldn't speak by then. And he showed me a box. He had to carry around a box at that time of his drawings and sayings and photographs. And he would show me his life, basically, through photographs and through pictures, and we were able to communicate. And we did that for an hour and a half, and then we slept a little bit. But one of the greatest things about Muhammad Ali was, he said, if you remember, what did he say? Remember what he said all the time? He said, "I am the greatest.
I am the greatest."
I am the greatest." And by saying that over and over again, guess what? He became the greatest, right? Just because he said it. And he believed it. He believed that he was the greatest, and therefore he was. As the person thinketh, so they are. Whatever you think, you will become, right? I tell this to you all the time, Charlotte, right? Whatever you want to think, you will become. That's the most powerful thing. This is the thing that we fight, as I began this talk, is our heads. This is what we have to fight through, is our heads. The negative, because most of the time thoughts are negative, if you notice. They're not positive. They're negative. So how do we fight through the negativity and then have success as an artist? Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, Denny.
Dylan, thank you for coming. You remember a while ago when you were talking about, growing up in New York and seeing Samo around the streets and all that?
Yeah.
And want to become an actor? What compelled you to study the Meisner Technique instead of Lee or Stella or any of that stuff? What compelled you to go to Bill to the Playhouse?
Yeah, well, I had gone to Fordham. I had graduated from Fordham. I actually got scholarships to graduate schools. And I had auditioned at Yale and didn't get in. They asked me to come back, I think the following year. But then I was like, well, what actors do I like? You know? Who are those people that who I admire? And they were, they were the Gregory Pecks, and they were Joanne Woodward and Robert Duvall, and all those people had gone to the Neighborhood Playhouse. And I admired them. And then I felt that was a good place for me because I admired those actors. And that proved to be true. And I ended up working with Joanne, became a mentor of mine when I was a young actor. And we ended up doing Golden Boy in Williamstown, doing a full production of that. And she's still one of the greatest directors I've ever worked with. So it was really the actors that I admired that I wanted to be like. Because we all need a mentor. We all need someone to look up to and say, I want to be like that. We all need that person. No one does it alone, We all look up to other actors and other artists and say, I want to, I have so many muses of artists I have Miles Davis, and I have Diane Arbus, and I have Francis Bacon. I have people in my head that Daniel Day-Lewis or Joanne or Jodie Foster, people I carry around with me that inspire me, as we all do. We all need that muse. I've been using Clark Gable for my muse with this character. One of my muses, and just being in his world. I have a poster of the Misfits in my bathroom in my house, and I look at him all the time. And there I am using him as my muse. So I think that people who inspire you, is to answer your question. You always need those people around to keep you going. Because you have to be inspired, like you paint, and you have to be, I'm sure, inspired all the time. And how do you get those triggers? And it's always somebody else who's done it before you.
So we always talk about what we do to unzip and become a character. But has there ever been any character that you know where what do you do to zip yourself back up?
Yeah.
To let go of that?
Good question. Yeah, I've had characters where it took a while to let go of them. I remember I did a movie called Wonderland about John Holmes. Yeah, and I had all these tattoos, and the movie was over. And I was actually shooting a TV show at the same time I was doing that. And I remember I kept filling in the tattoos every day. I kept drawing them on my arms. And the movie was like, this was like now 2 weeks ago, the movie was already done. But I kept doing it. He was still in me. He was lingering. He was still around, his presence. So sometimes characters, you could take your makeup off and they're gone. And others, they'll just hang around. As if they have still something to say. You know what I mean? So whatever it is, I honor it. However long they want to stay. That's why being an actor is like having multiple personalities, right? Because you don't know who's going to stay and who's going to go and who's going to teach you something, who's not going to. This is why acting is the greatest life, right? Because we get to be many people in one lifetime. Most people get to be one person. They go to their job, they eat lunch, they come home, they cook dinner, and they do it again the next day. We get to be, a cowboy, a doctor, a serial killer. We get to be so many different people in one lifetime. And what they've taught me, all the research they've taught me about life, I've learned so much that I would have never learned if I wasn't an actor. So honor this gift, take it, and go out and grab your destiny, because it's right there. The only thing that's in your way is you. Just get out of your way. Go to therapy. Thank you so much. So good to see you.
Thank you. Wonderful.
Thank you, Bill. Thank you. Thank you. You guys gonna do class now?